In 2008, Spider-Man fans were granted something truly spectacular. The Spectacular Spider-Man. It was everything to me, but it was also a godlike show filled with intense action, compelling drama, and characters that felt real. Unfortunately though, good things must come to an end, and Spectacular was cancelled after its second season. But I'm not here to talk about that show today. I'm here to talk about its predecessor, its replacement, and the reason it got cancelled, Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man. Let's start off by asking, well, what is Ultimate Spider-Man? Well, it was a godlike comic from the year 2000 with intense action, compelling drama, and characters that felt real. Sounds pretty familiar, right? It was the perfect comic book and influenced everything in Spider-Man media ever since. So when people heard that a show named after this comic series would be taking Spectacular Spider-Man's place, they were reasonably excited. But the show, overall, was an unfortunate letdown. The cartoon immediately leaned away from the comics and all source material. Now, for the sake of convenience and me not needing to write smooth transitions, I'll be breaking this review up into sections. The overall plot of the show. If you were expecting a complicated slice-of-life show where Spider-Man balances his high school life and secret identity, you're sorely mistaken. This is not that kind of show. Instead, in Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter is hired by S.H.I.E.L.D. to lead a new team of young heroes. This is actually a pretty interesting concept on paper, but the show doesn't seem to truly want to focus on it. Over the course of the show, Spider-Man has many random solo episodes, crossovers with other adventures, and even founds and stars on 2 separate other superhero teams. I just feel like if Marvel wanted this to be a regular team-up show, they should have focused on the main core team with White Tiger, Iron Fist, Power Man, and Nova. Although, I admit, I do kinda love the Web Warriors. Despite them messing with everybody's origins and not exactly fleshing out the more complex emotional characters like Agent Venom and Miles Morales. The consequences for Peter, his teammates, and their actions. One of the most compelling things about Spider-Man is he was one of the first superheroes to have consequences to his actions, and by this, I mean personal consequences to Peter Parker. For example, if Spider-Man patrols too late, Peter may get a curfew and get grounded by Aunt May. If the Vulture is attacking during the school day, Peter may get suspended for skipping school. Well, it's safe to say that all these realistic consequences that give the story weight are basically exempt from Ultimate, as not only are all his friends and family too forgiving, but Agent freaking Coulson works at his high school now, so academic repercussions are basically non-existent. Oh, and by the way, if you don't like the fact that the MCU Spider-Man gets all of his technology from Iron Man and never really builds any of it himself nowadays, you won't like the fact that Peter is completely funded by S.H.I.E.L.D. in this show, giving him wacky advanced gadgets, and meaning he never really needs to worry about money. The overall style and aesthetic of the show. The easiest way to describe the style of the show is it's very kiddish. Often Spider-Man will freeze frame to talk to the camera, almost as if he's Ferris Bueller. Along with this, early in the show, there was a little cartoon Spider-Man that popped up on the screen to explain what's going on, as if we didn't know what's going on. It was just really stupid and dumbed down the whole experience, and I'm glad that they got rid of him later on. I mean, I understand why this is being done. It's to make the show easier to understand for kids, but to be honest, it already was. All these moments are doing is undercutting the scenes that might actually have the slimmest amount of emotional weight to them. I don't mind inner monologues, but this is too much.
But you will have saved your aunt. I'd advise against making another poor decision.
I've done a lot of good as Spider-Man.
That is not funny.
I've also made life more dangerous
That
for
is
me
not-
and
there's
everyone else
nothing-
close to me. How many
There
people
is
have I hurt by
nothing
being Spider-Man?
good. There's nothing creative about this.
I hate that scene so much because it's supposed to be one of the most emotional parts of the entire show, and instead of letting the emotion of the past 4 seasons carry that moment, it cuts away to do a montage of sad clips that have no impact on anybody. The later seasons of the show. When this show first came out, I did my best to keep up with the episodes, and I gotta say, I think at the time, I genuinely enjoyed it. Although I did stop consistently watching the new episodes after the first season was completely over. I remember watching some of Season 2, almost everything in Season 3, and only the big events in Season 4, of which there are many. Ultimate Spider-Man had seemingly leaned away from the high school team drama storyline it never really fully committed to in the first place, and instead focused on big events like Spider-Verse. Overall, I have a lot of issues with this show. I even wrote a whole other section about how it screwed up the best villains, but I realized I'd only be wasting my breath. At the end of the day, this show clearly just wasn't made for me. It was made for a much younger audience. But you could argue that most superhero cartoons are made with kids as the main target demographic. That still doesn't excuse them for being lazy and emotionless. At this point in my life, I rate Ultimate Spider-Man a 2 out of 7. It's a show that, despite its interesting concepts, I have a very hard time enjoying now, but 10-year-old me, he loved it, and I hope that other kids can still feel that way about it.
And you're out! Again, that is baseball I'm thinking of, right?
However, Ultimate Spider-Man isn't so bad compared to this. I will never be able to make a review on this, because that would mean I'd actually need to be able to sit through more than one episode, and I don't see that happening.